This is Hiker Buzzwords Part 1. Okay, oh wow, hello. Focus. Today, we are going to walk through some hiker buzzwords. When I first started my TikTok account about backpacking and hiking, I got this general sense of a lot of people feeling left out of the hiker community because you would watch a video or you would read a blog post and you wouldn't know half the words they were using. So I started this series on my TikTok called Hiker Buzzwords. We hear them, we hate them, let's define them. That was the tagline. And so what I'm gonna do today is compile all of those terms, all of those videos into Hiker Buzzwords Part 1 and Hiker Buzzwords Part 2. There's no distinct separation between the two. I just have not made the Part 2 yet. This is Hiker Buzzwords Part 1. When I started getting into backpacking, I wouldn't be able to finish articles because I wouldn't know half the terms, and so I spent a lot of time on Google, and I just figured it would be really helpful for me to sit down and just talk through some of the common hiker buzzwords that you'll hear, and we can sit here and define them together. So we're gonna do that. Let's go ahead and hop on into the video. So we're gonna start with hiking. Hiking is walking on a trail. Really, honestly, that's the best definition that I can give you. It's anything where you're physically exerting yourself, just like walking. Typically it's on a pretty marked trail. Typically you carry a day pack, water, snacks, the 10 essentials. Typically that is how I define hiking. There's like very little criteria for what can be considered a hike. Next up, let's define day hiking. Day hiking is going on a hike during the day and not overnight camping. Typically these hikes last all day. Day hike, you carry the same things you would if you're hiking. So a day pack, water, food. You could be out all day. It could be 8 miles, it could be 10 miles, it could be 5 miles, but you're going on a hike during the day and you're not overnight camping. That is day hiking. So backpacking is typically a multi-day trip where you carry everything you need in a backpack on your back, and you're hiking, and you camp overnight. There's a term called excursion, which is basically just a multi-day hiking or backpacking trip. Next up, camping. It sounds like what it is. This can take place at a designated campsite. This could take place at a non-permitted campsite area. Really, the term for camping is very open. This could be in your car. That's typically what we call car camping. Yeah, that is camping. Typically with camping, you don't carry anything except what you need to set up in your tent, everything like that. If you're camping and you're just pulling up to a designated campsite, you have everything in your trunk. If you are backpacking, then typically you carry the tent and all your essentials with you. Next up is through hiking. Hiking is where you hike the completion of a trail that is long distance. Popular through hikes in America are the Pacific Crest Trail, known as the PCT, the Appalachian Trail, known as the AT, and the Continental Divide Trail, known as the CDT. Section hiking is exactly what it sounds like. You pick a section of the trail that you want to hike and you hike a portion of it, and then you go back and you hike a different portion of it, and over the course of however long you end up section hiking, you end up completing the full trail. When you hike all of those 3 trails, those are the most renowned trails in the US, you receive a triple crown, which just means that you hiked all 3 of those through hikes. You can also receive a triple crown by section hiking those trails. So let's dive into Leave No Trace, or commonly known as LNT. Leave No Trace is a set of 7 principles that is designed to keep nature wild. I'm gonna walk through very quickly these 7 principles, and this also makes your hike safer and safer for animals in the area and other campers. The principles are to plan ahead and prepare, travel and camp on durable surfaces, which means you're not camping on grasses in a grassland that will take a long time for them to recover. Dispose of your waste properly. This is like similar to pack it in, pack it out, which is another term we will dive into. Leave what you find, so don't take rocks, don't take trees, don't take dirt, just leave what you find on the trail for other people to enjoy. Next is respect wildlife. Don't leave your food around because wildlife will get into it. Mess with the wildlife. Hashtag keep wildlife wild. Be considerate of other visitors. The next set of terms are directly related to leave no trace principles in the sense that they assist in doing leave no trace L&T properly. These are a cat hole. A cat hole is a 6 to 8 inch hole that you dig in the ground that you can dispose of your human waste in or dispose of gray water from cooking in. Cat holes need to be dug 200 feet away from water sources, 200 feet away from the trail, and 200 feet away from the campsite. To dig a cat hole, you will need a trowel. A trowel is a tiny little shovel, super helpful in helping you dig into the ground. I suggest using a metal trowel. It really helps get in those roots in the ground, and it's very helpful. Pack it in, pack it out is essentially what it sounds like. If you bring it on the trail, you better bet it's either getting consumed by you or take it out with you. You're not leaving trash in the wild. The other day I was hiking on a trail and I found a Snickers wrapper. Infuriating. Let's talk about trail names. If you have been on long distance hikes, you probably know exactly what this is. A trail name is a name that you are given that symbolizes or signifies who you are while you are out hiking. For example, my friend and I hiked the Grand Teton Crest Trail, and let's just say she got a little irritated with the mosquitoes, and she ended up with a ton of bites on her everywhere. And so her trail name is now Skeeter. So it typically signifies something, an event, or just who you are while you're on the trail. Next up is trail angels. Trail angels are people along typically a long distance through hike trail. So the PCT, the AT, and the CDT, these people are individuals who give gifts or do acts of kindness for hikers. Some popular examples are like giving Gatorade or giving water or bringing snacks. There are even some well-known people on the Pacific Crest Trail and the Appalachian Trail that open their homes up and make food for a bunch of hikers. So trail angels come in a variety of shapes and sizes, but they are wonderful nonetheless. Next up, I'm going to talk about some clothing related terms that are important to know. Puffy jackets. So a puffy jacket is a down jacket. It can either be synthetic, which means that the feathers in the jacket are not real, goose down, or they can be authentic or real down, which it will be goose feathers. The purpose of a puffy jacket is to keep you warm. It typically goes over your base layers, and yeah, it can be waterproof, doesn't have to be, but yeah, that is a puffy jacket. Next up are base layers. Base layers are the layer of clothing that is sitting closest to your skin. A base layer is like leggings or a long sleeve shirt. These are layers that are specifically designed to wick sweat away from your skin. These are synthetic materials, and they do the best to either keep you cool when you're too hot or warm when you're cold. Okay, let's dive into some trail specific terms. Trailheads. Trailhead, you might know this and you might think, Leah, that is such a silly term to put in this series, but I don't know where you're at. And so these terms kind of range from like beginner, novice, like entry level, I'm not really sure about backpacking, I'm gonna dip my toes in the water, to you might be like advanced, quote unquote, or like pretty in the community and still not know what these terms are. So if you know what it is, it's okay. We're here. We're not here for you right now. We're here for the beginners. Trailhead is where the trail starts. This is typically marked on a map. You are near like a parking lot that leads you to a trailhead. This is where you will be given information about the length of the trail typically. It's pretty good signage if you're in a national forest or a national park, or even just a local park. There's a term called bushwhacking, and that basically means you're going off the trail for a purpose. There's a reason. It's an unmarked trail typically that you have to go on to get to your destination. You're going through brush or bushes. It can be like very painful if you're not wearing the proper clothing. I recommend wearing pants if you're gonna bushwhack, or you know you're about to bushwhack, or just sliding some on. Next is a switchback. A switchback is a very common term, very commonly used on trails. So a switchback is a zigzag pattern either up a hill or down a hill. This makes the hike less intense. This increases the likelihood of preventing erosion. According to Leave No Trace, you are not supposed to cut a switchback, which basically means you make your own trail. According to Leave No Trace, you need to stay on the trail, so please keep the trails in pristine condition. If you cut a switchback, it can increase erosion. So there are a few types of rock fields that you will happen upon in the backcountry if you're hiking in a mountainous area. This is medium-sized rocks on the side of a field. This can range from boulders to fist-shaped rocks. Fist-sized rocks, not shaped, that'd be awkwardly shaped rocks. They're sharp and dangerous if you're not super careful, and so it can be easy to lose a footing, so just be careful when you're hiking in a scree field or a talus field because they can be very dangerous. Next, scree. Scree is a pretty common term. So scree is like pebble-like rocks on the side of a mountain. This is where like a rock would fall and like crumble. That's like the remnants of part of the mountain is what is referred to as scree. Lastly, a boulder field is exactly what it sounds like. It's typically on the side of a mountain and it's a field full of boulders. Fits into the category of through hiking. 0 days are days that you typically don't hike any miles at all. These days are reserved for rest, for catching up on sleep, for resupplying on your food when you're through hiking. That is what a 0 day is. Next is resupply. Like I just said, resupply is typically when you are through hiking. A resupply is when you stop into a grocery store or stock up on all the food that you will be eating on the trail. Next is drop zero. Drop zero is where the shoe that you're wearing has no degree of difference between the heel and the ball of your foot. Typically, most shoes are at an incline with the bed of the foot elevated, but drop zero controls that and it lays flat at a 0 degree incline, angle, whatever you want to call it. So it's a drop zero. Just basically means the heel and the top of your toes are at the same level. Next are convertible pants. This is a pretty fun one. Think of like that dad who wears cargo pants and then just imagine him zipping them off. Those are basically what convertible pants are. They're pants that turn into shorts. It's gonna be a really nice option for people who are hiking in a climate where the days can get really warm, but then the nights are pretty cold, or the evenings, or like the mornings are chilly and then the afternoons are hotter or warmer, and then the evenings again are chilly, so you can just zip them on, zip them back off. That way you don't have to do 2 separate pieces of clothing on your hike. Cook pot is the pot that you cook food in. This is the pot that sits on top of your stove. This can also be the pot that you eat from. It just depends on your preferences as a hiker. Next is cold soaking. Cold soaking is for the individuals who don't want to bring a stove because of the extra weight, or they just prefer cold soaking. You put the whatever food you're eating, whether it be couscous or oatmeal, in a jar, and you put water in it, and then you let it sit, and as you let it sit, it basically rehydrates the food, and then voila, you have dinner. Cold dinner. Not a fan, but you know. Next is GORP. GORP basically stands for good old fashioned raisins and peanuts. So yeah, that's what it is, raisins and peanuts. Delicious. Actually, I really actually like that combination. That sounded really sarcastic, but this was supposed to be serious. Is gray water. Gray water is anything. Gray water is the water that you would like use to clean out your pot after you're done cooking. I feel like you just got done cooking some mac and cheese and you put a little bit of water in it and like you swirl it around, and then there's water with like that, like a little bit of the extra sauce like got in the water. That is gray water. You can drink it. Some hikers go that route, or you can dig a cat hole, 6 to 8 inch hole in the ground where you can dump that. Do not dump your food waste in a cat hole. Food waste ought to be packed out. All right, everyone, thanks for hanging around for Hiker Buzzwords Part 1. This is a lofty series, so there will be a Part 2 coming next with all the terms that I didn't include in Part 1. Comment a term below that I should have included if I didn't, and I'll make sure to include it in Part 2. I will see you guys later. Thanks so much for tagging along. Make sure you subscribe. My merch is in the bio. My socials are in the bio, so go check out my TikTok, go check out my Instagram. So I will catch up with you soon. Adios.